Hello there folks, welcome back to the Chap's Guide. My name is Ash. I am your host on this journey through men's style, self-development and personal grooming. Now today, something of an off-the-cuff video. No notes. This is just going to be me answering a question which has come in directly from a viewer. And a reminder on that note, if you'd like to ask me a question to elicit my observations, thoughts or comments, drop it in. Drop it into the comment section or preferably send me an email. Email address on the screen. Those emails come to me. Nobody else sees them, just my eyes. You can send anything you like, no judgment, but if it's of sufficient quality and interest, I will make it into a video, which you will see here. Now, today's question comes from Ryan, who says, can you share some of your favourite lapel pins? You have been an inspiration for using the blank canvas of a suit jacket lapel as prime real estate to showcase our associations, affiliations and passions using pins. This small detail has added much needed flair to my daily suiting and has given me the opportunity to indulge in family history and with the box of lapel pins that were handed down to me from both my father and grandfather. To support this question, I've included a photo of two of my personal favourites, the alumni pin from my university degree and a very cool club pin from my father's football club in Cape Town, South Africa, which is 50 years old. Great stuff, and I love the pins, actually, they look extremely charming. Okay, no notes, as I say. I do think that wearing lapel pins is an often overlooked element of a sartorial gentleman's toolbox of items that he can add flair to his suit, his blazer, his tweed jacket, sports jacket, whatever you're wearing. Even if you're wearing, say, a casual garment, like I'm wearing right now, a sort of adventure jacket, you can pin a lapel pin to the collar, should you wish to do so. I find they're a little bit over the top perhaps, but certainly if you're wearing a suit, it's worth considering adding something of interest to the lapel. Now I know a lot of guys will maybe opt for a boutonniere. I get it, all right? It is very flamboyant, not seen that often, and it will certainly make you an outlier in a group of people because you will rarely find other men dressing in that way. I get it, I've got a few boutonnieres myself and I will wear them occasionally, but for me they are just that one click of the style volume knob higher than I am generally comfortable with. Even though, you know, King Charles, monarch of this country, often does wear a boutonniere, so he sets the standard for the rest of us. But for me, a lapel pin is probably about as far as I'm prepared to go. So it's worth adding them to the outfit. And as Ryan ably said, they allow us to communicate something to people. Our associations. We might be members of club. We might have gone to a certain university or school. We might represent a sports club or a group of people. And if they have a badge, it is something which we can wear and it will, tell people that. So maybe you're in a social setting, a conference or some such, and somebody will notice the pin or badge you're wearing. It'll be an opening to a conversation with a stranger who could soon become a friend. So for no other reason, it allows you to communicate your association or your interests. You know, here in the UK, we are building up to Remembrance Sunday. People in this country will be wearing poppies in recognition of our fallen heroes. And it's something which, you know, the nation tends to do a great deal of. It allows us, again, to express gratitude and thanks for generations which have sacrificed in the past. So little things like this, it is important. So I've been asked to share some of my favourite lapel pins, and I have my lapel pins here in this little box marked studs, where I also keep my studs for my my dinner shirts to go with my black tie outfit. But it's a convenient place to keep my favourite pocket squares, lapel pins. What I also tend to do, because I accumulate these things, you know, when you go to a conference, you'll tend to pick these things up. What I do, I'll stick my lapel pins on a piece of cardboard. There's a little back of one which has fallen off. There we go, somewhere on there. and it just allows you to keep them in one place. So when you're looking for a certain lapel pin, you think, oh, I know, I'm going to a meeting maybe where I could wear that because it's pertinent to that group of people. You can track it down, and sure enough, you're ready to go. You can find it readily. So that's something which is handy to do. But the ones which I wear all of the time, I have here in my little box. And I'm just going to tell you some of the stories of these, because you'll find it perhaps interesting why I gravitate to these certain ones. So where shall I begin? I'm going to start with two here, two of the same type. This is the HM, His Majesty's Armed Forces Veterans Badge. So everybody who serves in the Armed Forces here in the UK will be given one of these badges. Shall I say awarded the badge? Yes, you think you have to do something to get it. So yes, you are awarded this badge when you leave military service. So it is a veterans badge. Only veterans of His Majesty's Armed Services get to wear these badges. It is a way we recognise each other when we're in social settings. We wear them to Remembrance Parade so that other citizens are aware that we have served. Obviously I served for 10 years in the Royal Air Force, many 27, 28 years ago now. Ancient history, but once a year I do drag this badge out, which will be this coming Sunday as I film this, and I will wear this lapel badge on that day, as will my father, who is 93 and a veteran of the British Army. It's something which crosses the generations. So for me, it is a very important badge, and one which I wear very rarely, but it's one which means a great deal, symbolically important. And actually I have a miniature version of it, because the standard one you get issued is somewhat big, dominates the lapel. So for me, I'm a little bit perhaps reticent in displaying these things, so I actually tracked down I think it's like a third size one. It's a lot smaller. It allows me to wear it on the lapel without perhaps being so obvious about it. So I do like that one, and I do wear that one a bit more often. What else have I got here? What have I got? Oh, well, on the subject of military stuff, I've got a small lapel badge, which is a symbol of the Royal Air Force. So I served in the RAF, as I said. So for me, I would wear this only if I was going to an occasion where I knew there would be likely other RAF veterans. So it would, again, open the door for a conversation. I don't typically wear it around day to day. I'm not that sort of guy, but it is nice to have it on there if I'm going to a remembrance gathering, maybe an armed forces meeting. I'm active in a few armed forces charities, so from that point of view it is useful. On that subject, armed forces charities, here's another sort of award I had. I am a caseworker in a British armed forces charity called SAFA, Soldiers, Sailors, Airmen's Families Association, and it's the oldest military charity here in the UK. I've been working as a volunteer and actually even on their payroll for a period of time for that charity for nearly 15 years now. And every 5 years you get a badge with the period of time which you've volunteered for them. So this was my 10-year badge, which I will wear again when I'm doing something for that charity. So this is the value of curating a collection of lapel badges or pins, so you can deploy them when appropriate. So when I'm volunteering for that charity, when I'm going to a meeting of that charity, an AGM, Christmas gathering, monthly meeting, that's when I draw out my SAFA 10-year badge, and I see all the other guys wearing those. We know we're in the same club. It's an affiliation. It brings people together. And I'm going to break aside for just 1 minute, because it reminds me, on my little collection here of lapel badges, I set up my own charity a number of years ago, actually. And one of the first things that I did to ensure that the charity, which I created from scratch, had an identity, it had a commonality, an association between volunteers, I commissioned the creation of a lapel badge. And this is the actual lapel badge here. It's an oak leaf on a magenta background with a gold surround. And that particular charity related to the protection of older people. So the oak leaf seemed to be quite symbolic for, you know, a stoical generation of people. And that badge, we had them made in their hundreds. They cost virtually nothing when you buy them in large numbers. And we handed them out to supporters, volunteers and so on. And I don't get to wear it these days because the charity is largely in abeyance, looking towards its retirement very soon because its purpose was served and the work that we did was taken over by the government. So in the best possible way, a charity sees its end come to a conclusion when the statutory bodies take over your work. But that badge brings back strong memories for me in those days. And on that note, actually staying with that same theme, with that charity, it did quite well. And in 2017, the charity actually won first place in the United Nations Public Service Awards. And I was chair of trustees in that charity, so I had to go over to The Hague in the Netherlands, where the United Nations were holding their public service forum that year, big conference. People from all over the world came, and in that forum they handed out the trophies and the certificates, and I received, on behalf of our charity, the first place award for public service. And I picked up this lapel pin, which is the United Nations lapel pin. And I never wear it now, but of course it reminds me of probably the high point of my entire volunteering career. You know, you could never hit that point again. Meeting the Assistant Secretary General of the UN, handing me the award. I had to give a 10-minute sort of small sub-lecture in one of the group meetings there to talk about our charity. And this always takes me right back in time to a very, very special moment of my life. And as again, another reason for your lapel badge is it evokes nostalgia within you as well. So I wear it as I remember with pride a very a halcyon moment in my, not professional career, it was a volunteering activity. So very special from that point of view. What else have I got here? Little badges which bring back a bit of a memory. Here's one. This is the one I probably wear the most. You'll see me wearing this in a lot of my videos, predominantly because of the colours involved. Now this tiny little badge here is something which goes with an award you can get here in the UK. Because of that charity work which I had done, I was very lucky to be the representative of that charity who received a national award. And this little badge is the badge which goes along with that award. So I wear it in recognition of the work that the charity did. I just got to be the person who collected the award. And it is a lovely little award because it's got red in it. So it allows me to add a little flash of colour. And it's a nicely made little semi-badge because it has a replica of the actual award itself inside the red bit. So it's visually stimulating. So when people see it, they will say to me, "What's the badge?" And again, it's an opportunity to open a line of conversation which I would otherwise not have. So that's one little gift that the badge gives, and you'll often see me wearing that one because of its colour. Along a similar lines, a very similar sort of badge, again, you know, I'm sounding like a one-track pony here, but working with that charity, and the charity was awarded the Order of the League of Mercy, right, which is a charitable body which provide recognition for people and charities that do work to alleviate the suffering of the sick and the elderly. And the League of Mercy recognised the charity I was working with, so I went along to the award ceremony in London, and that came with a little lapel pin, which is something quite fascinating, interesting, visually sort of captivating when you see it. And again, people often say to me, "What's that all about?" And again, it's an opportunity to have a chat. And particularly when I was very active in that charity, trying to raise money and awareness for the work that we did, it was a good thing to wear because it got people talking about it. Now, another badge, totally different theme here. This is a badge which I picked up in a museum in Ypres in Belgium, which relates to I think it's called the Western Front Association. I wear this one quite a lot. Again, nice colours, got a bit of blue in there. And it takes me back, 10 plus years ago. along with a good friend of mine called John, who now lives in Romania, so I don't see him very often anymore. So it's nice to reminisce about times with a good friend. But we decided to take a pilgrimage to the First World War cemeteries in the Ypres area. So it was an area which was particularly saw horrible fighting during the First World War. Many hundreds of thousands of soldiers from both sides lost their lives in that part of the world, and there are vast World War I cemeteries where British soldiers and German soldiers, of course, lie in permanent rest, having served their time in the trenches and lost their lives. And we visited in February. I'm sorry I don't have any images of this. I can only paint the picture verbally. But we went there in February, and we drove over from here, the UK, went on the Channel Tunnel, went to Ypres, and it was bitterly cold. I can't recall ever being perhaps colder in my life, other than perhaps skiing in Canada or something like that. But it was fabulously cold. There was nobody around. And we went to these cemeteries. We were there for about 3 days. We travelled to these cemeteries in homage of the men who had given their lives. And we were the only people in these cemeteries because it was so fabulously cold. And we were dressed up, as if we were staging an attempt on the Southern Pole, but it was necessary to keep warm. And there was this eerie atmosphere in these cemeteries because there was nobody else there because of the environment. And it was, sort of so atmospheric. And it connected us with those who had gone before us because they would have had to suffer through, the temperatures and the weather that we were witnessing ourselves. And it left an indelible mark on me about the terrible losses which come from warfare and one country's ambitions over another. And I picked up this pin from one of the museums in town. Every night we were there, we attended the daily ceremony which takes place at the Menham Gate, where the last post is played by the firemen from the fire station next door to the Menham Gate. Very, very atmospheric. My son actually visited there last year and laid a wreath on behalf of his school. And it's somewhere where I will absolutely hope to visit again in the future. But this little badge takes me back. It reminds me of sacrifice, of loss, of my good friend John, who I don't see anymore because he lives elsewhere in the world, and a very strong memory. Again, another purpose of wearing a lapel badge. And finally, a little simple one. It is a small badge featuring the Union flag of the country in which I live. And of course these are very popular, particularly in North America. Many people like to wear their national flag as maybe a symbol of their patriotism and their sort of association and affiliation with their nation. And I'm fully for that. It's not something which is traditionally done here in the UK. However, many years ago, I was travelling with a friend of mine to America, right? Two chaps, before I got married. We were on a sort of gentleman's tour, enjoying some of the cities of the States, and we knew we'd be going out socialising. And we realised we'd be hitting many cities which were not popular with tourists. So people might wonder who we were. Why were there a couple of Brits there travelling around these sort of unusual locations in backwater USA? So I purchased 2 Union flags, which we wore when we went out socially on our, jackets, blazers, tweed jackets, whatever we were wearing at the time. And what it was an opportunity to introduce ourselves to people without opening our mouths. And I got to tell you, it worked a treat. The number of people who would come up and point to the badge, even come up and touch the badge on your chest, sort of poke you in the chest. What's all that about? And of course, once you start talking, it became the open door to many new conversations and friendships with people which we met. I haven't worn it for a very long time, but I found it in my little collection of lapel pins when I was drawing just a handful out, which I intended to talk with you about today. So Ryan, I hope that was of some use to you, because those are the pins which you will see me wearing in my videos. They do vary. I have a few others I will pick out from time to time, certain times of year, but these are the ones which have most relevance for me and resonate with the soul. They will take me back to a place in history, in time, with good friends when I experienced something. And just by catching a glance of it, you know, in the mirror or when I put that jacket on, it catapults me back and it reminds me of something. Or I am showing people a little bit about myself, a bit about my character, a bit about my history in the badges and things which I wear. I hope that sheds some light a bit more on my backstory and on how I use even the smallest accessories on my clothing to tell the story to people who are open to read that story. Because if you recognize any of these things, you will know I can approach this person and open a line of dialogue because we have something in common. There we go. Getting rather cold now, time to head in. If you have enjoyed the video, don't forget, like it, subscribe. If you would like to support the channel, you could buy me a coffee, or for a very small, tiny monthly fee, you can become a member of my Chap's Guide patron family, the link to which is in the show notes below, where you'll get extra videos from me and a personal connection with me as well. And don't forget, drop me a question, email, or drop it into the comments. I would love to hear from you. So until the next time, pick the right badge which suits what you're doing today, and I'll see you again very soon.